Welcome back, one and all, to the Boston Celtics Newsfeed, powered by CLNS Media. I'm Mike Walsh, manager of the Celtics Newsfeed, and this is day 26 of our 2017-18 NBA preview. We've been going day by day, releasing team previews leading up to opening night. That's tonight, actually, in Cleveland. Before we get started today, I wanted to mention that the CLNS Media team has been all over training camp, and our YouTube page at youtube.com/CLNS Media is packed with content from the preseason. That coverage doesn't end there, though. CLNS is at Quicken Loans today for the Celtics season opener against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we'll have complete pre- and post-game coverage. So head over to youtube.com/CLNS Media, subscribe right there so you won't miss a thing. Now, each of these preview podcasts will be accompanied by an outline blog post on our site, clnsradio.com. Today I'm going to be speaking with CLNS Media contributor Samuel Lias about his preview for the Sacramento Kings. After a pretty rough-looking DeMarcus Cousins trade shocked the NBA in February, the Doormat Kings have quietly gone about acquiring talented young assets and pairing them with quality veteran leadership. So, without further ado, let's get into day 26 of the Boston Celtics Newsfeed's 2017-18 NBA season preview with Samuel Lias and the Sacramento Kings. Alright guys, welcome in day 26 on the Celtics Newsfeed preview podcast. We're talking to Samuel Lias, calling in from the West Coast about the West Coast, Sacramento Kings, who had a very interesting offseason, obviously a very eventful season last year when they wind up dealing DeMarcus Cousins at the trade deadline, but almost an even more interesting offseason. Sam, how are we doing this evening?
Doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I'm good. It's late out here, but I'm up and ready to go. We are, under, I think, 24 hours now until the Celtics tip off against Cleveland. And yeah, we're going to talk some Kings. So, let's start last year. 32-50 is their final record, but that doesn't mean so much as does their February. And when they sort of caught the NBA off guard a little bit and DeMarcus Cousins trade appeared out of nowhere, take me back there. What were your feelings on that trade when it happened and what you, saw out of Vlade Divac's move? Yeah,
I was really bummed. Obviously, I am a big Boogie Cousins fan. He's a player that I've coveted for Boston. I thought that, he would be perfect for them as far as an inside dominant player, supremely talented, and just the kind of person that's could pretty much solve all of their problems, assuming that his head was straight. So when that happened, I was really surprised. I was really bummed that he went for so little. It seemed like the Kings wanted Hield really badly. So it seems to be one of those things, right, where he was exactly the player they wanted, and a lot like the Paul George trade with Oladipo. And I don't know, it's just underwhelming, it just makes you feel like we could have had him, maybe the Celtics didn't want him, like kind of been rumored, but still a bummer anytime a talent of that level is out there. But from their perspective, it was really surprising because all you'd ever hear about was Boogie Cousins was their man. It looked like that Supermax contract that was designed to keep players in small markets was really gonna help them keep that player, but like we saw in other cases, it almost seemed to be too much money and they didn't want to bank on that, so they dealt him. And just a real shocking trade, especially the way it happened during the All-Star game, and just kind of, set the NBA Twitter sphere on fire that night.
Yeah, if you want to trace back this absolutely insane summer we've had, you could almost go all the way back to February, when that thing happened, and he just, a crazy 2017 really, in its entirety with all that's happened since then. But Cousins is no longer on the Kings. He's out in New Orleans, who we've already talked about. So, let's dive into this Kings team, cause I guess that deal, give me a Rotten Tomatoes meter on it. It wasn't viewed in a very positive light for the Kings, was it?
Not from Kings fans. From what I saw, they felt the same way, like that's all we could get for him. Hield was a nice player, but, I think it's such an underwhelming deal, right? For a player that's been rumored to be dealt for so long. As Celtics fans, I think, you kind of thought it would take a lot to get him. So, but I think, when you kind of look at their team now, it doesn't seem all that bad because they have a lot of young talent.
Right.
And so they must have just felt like they wanted to refresh and start new. They probably felt that sinking a couple $100 million into Cousins might be a wrong timeline with some of these young players, but they seem to look okay. They have a lot of young talent.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. They obviously move along from DeMarcus Cousins, they also move on from, maybe not by their choice. Rudy Gay does opt out and sign elsewhere. We actually just talked about Rudy Gay joining the Spurs, but they kind of cut bait there. They realized that, we're not going to build a championship or even, even a playoff team, it appears, around Cousins and Gay. And now they're taking a different route, and that has to be refreshing for fans. They head into the draft, and they come out of it with the number 5 overall selection, De'Aaron Fox, who a lot of people think has a decent shot at Rookie of the Year, and being, one of the better players to come out of that draft. A lot of people have a lot more faith in him, being a sure thing than they do either of the 2 guards who went above him, Lonzo Ball and Markelle Fultz, who have, higher upsides. But your thoughts and what you researched on De'Aaron Fox and what he can be at the NBA level?
Well, I think it just comes down to whether or not he can hit that outside shot, right? Cause, people love him. It seems like, there's a lot of rumors that Lonzo Ball is avoiding him after that college game. He's definitely a player to be excited about, and they pair him with Hield. Maybe you've got your backcourt in the future there. Mm-hmm. They haven't made the playoffs in, I think, 12 years. Thanks. So, you're right. I mean, Cousins not being there didn't help him get to the playoffs. So, along with De'Aaron Fox, they also picked up, Harry Giles and Jackson?
Harry Giles and Frank Mason, yeah.
There's also North Carolina's Justin Jackson is what I saw on the
team. Yeah. Sorry about that, yes. Also him.
So, they got 3 players with a lot of upside there. Mm-hmm. To go along with, Scalabisia, I think that's how you say it.
Yes.
And also Willie Cauley-Stein, which is a player that seems to be coming along, kind of starting to emerge as a player. So that's 5 players right there that they can kind of build around.
Yeah, also this summer after the draft and all these young guys, they do something interesting and they go out and they sign these 3 veteran guys, bring them in to, I guess, sort of be elder statesmen on this team. Something that either didn't work or they didn't try with Boogie around. And I can't blame them if it didn't work in what they tried to do. But they bring back Zach Randolph, bring in George Hill and Vince Carter. What are your thoughts on these offseason moves, these free agent acquisitions that are bound for the retirement home pretty soon?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised, especially the George Hill part, because George Hill just played for Utah and he was a stabilizing force over there for them and really helped them to be one of the top 4 seeds or top 5 seeds in the Western Conference this year. And I was kind of surprised he didn't go to a winning club. But these are great pickups for them. I'm not used to seeing free agents go to Sacramento like that can kind of help their young players come along. So it looks like they're taking a more mature approach than just trying to put young players out there and having them take their lumps. I kind of like this. I'm surprised. I don't have the greatest thoughts on Vlade Divac as a GM, but it just seems like they're kind of doing things the right way.
Yeah, again, spanning from that trade of DeMarcus Cousins, which was, as you write on CLNSradio.com, widely panned at the time. But people, they do seem like they think Vlade Divac might be on the right track. Maybe that owner is sort of starting to take a back seat and back up and realize that he needs to delegate and everything.
And maybe Divac is learning the rules as well.
That's true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, these things take time. Today's episode of the Preview Podcast is sponsored by Greats, makers of the all-time greats, classic, stylish, and comfortable sneakers sold at a great price. Greats is Brooklyn's first sneaker company. They have a wide selection of both men's and women's shoes with versatile styles that are suitable for any occasion. Take me, for example, I have the all-leather Royale lace-ups. I've worn them on the golf course. I've worn them to the office. I wear them just casually walking around in shorts. They look great with no-show socks. Great with any really outfit you can try on. You can check out those and other styles at greats.com. So head over there and we've got a special deal for our audience. Save 15% on your first order with our offer code Celtics Roundtable. Go to greats.com, that's GREATS.com, and be sure to enter Celtics Roundtable to save 15% at checkout. Greats also believes so much in their shoes, they're offering a no-risk return and exchange policy that guarantees you get the right fit and style you love. That's greats.com. Use the code Celtics Roundtable and save 15%. All right, so they will play the Celtics twice, and we want to get into this. Obviously, the Celtics starting up this evening out in Cleveland. The Sacramento Kings will play the Boston Celtics twice, starting Wednesday, November 1st, so pretty early on in the season, just a couple weeks from now. The Kings will come to Boston on Wednesday, November 1st. And then Sunday, March 25th, so we got a while before this one, the Celtics make a trip out to Sacramento. It's part of a 4-game road trip 4 games in 6 days. They'll have stops in Portland and then Sacramento and Phoenix, I believe, back-to-back, and then a day off, and then Utah. So those games are on the horizon this season. If you can give me a little bit of this matchup, obviously not something we need to spend a ton of time on, given that it'll more than likely only be these 2 games. What would you see happening in a potential Celtics-Kings matchup?
For me personally, it's been really difficult for me to look at any Celtics matchups and look forward to how it's going to be, just because, we have such a new team, right? And then Sacramento,
we don't know what it is.
Right. And Sacramento has a new team. So, I mean, just going off of some of their veterans, like a Zach Randolph, he's the kind of guy that would typically punish us inside. Willie Cauley-Stein is the kind of player that's high energy and athletic in the front court that would also normally give us problems. But for Sacramento to beat us in a year like this with the amount of talent that we have, I think it would take a hot shooting night out of their backcourt, specifically, Hield. But we have such a long athletic team this year that looks like it's going to rebound better, that looks like it might be able to play defense. I don't really see Sacramento being able to compete with Boston this year. I think Boston's team, while new, and meshing together, our talent is largely in its prime as far as, our primary players. I don't see them having many problems with the team that young, cause I'm thinking that the veteran players will be sprinkled in there, and they'll probably start, but I think that the majority of the time will still come from their young players as they try to develop them. So I think it's going to be a relatively tough year for them.
Yeah, I figure they'd be a year or so, or maybe more than that, away from competing against a team like the Celtics, or obviously the upper echelon teams in the West as well. But I mean, I would be thrilled to watch a Kyrie Irving, De'Aaron Fox. I feel like that'd be a good test for Fox, who, prides himself on being a defensive player and, being, a tough physical guy who could match up with a player of the caliber and tout or clout of a Kyrie Irving. So that would definitely be an interesting one for me. All right.
And maybe a Marcus Smart on him. That might be pretty interesting too, to see speed matchup problem there with Fox, but that would be fun to see.
Sam Lias, at Sam_San Diego on Twitter. You can hear him on the CLNS Media Network. Read him on CLNS Media or CLNSradio.com. Hopefully soon to be CLNSmedia.com. Sam, any last second thoughts on the Sacramento Kings this season? They had an interesting offseason, and we'll have to look forward to what they are.
Yeah, I mean, I like their offseason, for them. Obviously, as Celtics fans, we're watching them really closely. Because we hope they're bad for a couple more seasons in case that Lakers draft pick doesn't come through. So I'm definitely watching them closely. I want them to struggle this year. And I think that they will, right? Because the West is so stacked that it's going to take them several years. Yeah, so I see them falling back a few games, finishing at 29-53. I think the playoff drought extends. But I think it's going to be a good year overall for them because they are going to grow their talent. They will get another lottery pick this year. And, like I said, things are looking up for them. I think they have a second year coach who people seem to be pretty happy with. And like I said, overall, I like where they're trending. This is probably the best that they've trended for a while, right? Since Cousins has been there for so long and they've just been a sinking ship. So yeah, I like where they're headed.
All right. Thanks, Sam. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to Day 26 of the Boston Celtics Newsfeed's 2017-18 NBA preview. Again, you can get more analysis on the CLNSradio.com site and view any of our previous episodes at youtube.com/CLNS Media. Follow CLNS on Twitter at CLNS Media and myself at CLNS_Walsh. Be sure to subscribe to the Celtics Newsfeed, rate and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, and of course, the CLNS Media Network's mobile podcast app. Until next time, this is Newsfeed Manager Mike Walsh, signing off.